For tomorrow's wedding, the gift should be $10,000. If that's too much, don't bother coming."
An arrogant sales director, Mark declared in front of all the employees. As everyone was taken aback, he was the only one laughing with delight.
"If you bring $10,000, I might at least get you a seat in the corner,"
Mark said, pointing at me and sneering. However, Mark had no idea that he would be utterly embarrassed on what was supposed to be the best day of his life. "My name is Chris. I'm a sales manager at a well-established company in town called Assassin Trading, which mainly deals with seafood. Though not large, Assassin Trading has grown to be a trusted brand by selecting fresh, seasonal seafood, cutting unnecessary costs, and providing safe and affordable products to consumers' tables. I was born and raised near the fishing port, so I've always loved seafood. That's why I was thrilled when I got a job at Assassin Trading, thinking I could eat all the seafood I wanted, a naive thought of my younger self. But once I started working, there was so much to learn that I felt overwhelmed. Besides knowledge of seafood, I had to analyze distribution channels and market needs, and quickly identify what the market demanded. However, remembering how happy I was as a boy when delicious fish was on the table, I worked hard to provide fresh products so that children would come to love fish. Lately, I hear that not only children who dislike fish because of the bones, but also many adults feel the same way. Therefore, we've been making efforts to process fish so it can be enjoyed easily without much preparation, like deboning. As I was busily working, 18 years had passed since I joined a company. During this time, I married a college classmate, and we had 2 children, now in middle and elementary school. They are still young but have started to say cheeky things, making me deeply feel their growth. I became the head of the sales department, with more subordinates and responsibilities, but I found it fulfilling. However, dark clouds began to loom with the arrival of one person. His name is Mark. He was newly appointed as the sales director.
"I'm Mark, the new sales director at Assassin Trading."
I had heard that the new director was a talented individual poached from a major trading company, but when I saw Mark on his first day at work, I couldn't believe my eyes. Mark was my senior in high school, a tall, handsome, and popular student 2 years ahead of me. He was so popular that there was even a fan club at the nearby girls' high school. I have an older sister, Anne, who seemed to have liked Mark back then. Looking back, it was more like admiration than a crush. Similar to how girls scream for their idols, feeling happy just watching from afar. Anne wasn't very conspicuous, but she was pretty and quietly popular among the boys. Many classmates asked me, "Introduce your sister to me." As I didn't want to share my kind sister, I always refused outright. However, Anne happily told me one summer break that she had started dating Mark. I felt I had to accept it since I knew she had liked him for a long time. At first, Anne seemed happy every day, but gradually she became withdrawn and showed a gloomy expression. When I asked what was wrong, it turned out that Mark had been pressuring her and started to verbally abuse and ignore her when she refused. Anne couldn't stand such treatment, and when she talked about breaking up, Mark would suddenly become kind again, repeating the cycle, as she told me in tears. For Anne, who was having her first boyfriend experience, Mark gradually became a frightening figure. After repeated incidents, Anne reached her breaking point. She told me she would definitely break up with him, left the house, and returned home in the middle of the night, looking distraught. To my shocked parents and me, Anne said, "I just tripped, it's nothing," and locked herself in her room. Since then, she stopped going to school. I thought something must have happened with Mark, but Anne stubbornly kept silent, leaving me powerless. At school, Mark remained popular and trusted by teachers, acting as if nothing was wrong. It seemed like Mark had kept his relationship within a secret, and no one connected her absence from school to him.
Hey, Mark. I'm Chris, Anne's brother. Do you know she's been missing school?
One day, unable to hold back any longer, I confronted Mark when he was alone.
And, right? Oh yeah, I hung out with her a few times. What about her?
His usual friendly demeanor changed to a cold expression. I was speechless at his intimidating stance.
You know, I don't know what you've heard, but there are lots of girls who fantasize about being with me. So, you're saying your sister's absence is my fault?
Mark looked down on me with disdain.
Let me be clear, it's annoying. Tell that girl and not to flatter herself thinking she's in my league. And thinking she can mock me? She's way out of her depth.
Oh, I knew it.
Flustered, I tried to respond, but Mark brushed me off and pushed me aside.
Stop with the baseless accusations. I have nothing to do with it. Got it? Don't you dare spread rumors about me.
He kicked sand at me and walked away quickly. Anne stayed secluded for about 3 months, but eventually went to recuperate at our grandparents' place in the countryside on our parents' advice. As she left, looking much thinner but smiling kindly, she said to me, "Take care, don't overdo it." Afterward, Anne seemed to benefit from the peaceful rural life, graduated from a different high school, and went on to become a kindergarten teacher. She remained single, brushing off questions about marriage with a smile, saying she was too busy with the kids. Though I never interfere in Anne's choices, part of me blames Mark for her situation. Facing Mark with these bitter memories made it hard for me to stay calm. But it was already 25 years ago. Dwelling on the past seemed pointless. Raising a fuss wouldn't make Anne happy. And Mark probably didn't even remember me. With that realization, I closed off my feelings.
Let's continue to grow assassin trading together.
Mark said, oblivious to my thoughts.
Hey, Chris. A moment.
Again. Reluctantly, I approached Mark. You called Mark. Standing at his desk, he thrust some documents at me.
Look, how many times do I have to say it? Did you follow my instructions? Where's the memo I gave you?
Here's a memo, but as I've said several times, your instructions are impractical. Mark became visibly angry, his eyes narrowing.
What do you mean impractical?
We can't process the products on that schedule.
So, push the factory to make it work?
I sighed inwardly but patiently responded. Sorry, but forcing the issue would affect future transactions. It goes against our president's policy of valuing our staff. I hope you can approve my proposal instead. Mentioning the president, Mark reluctantly nodded and stamped his approval. I just can't understand this laid-back company. If everyone did as I say, we'd perform better. Mumbling complaints, Mark let me go. I returned to my desk. Sensing Mark's lingering arrogance from his time at a larger company, even over something as simple as a quote, he also seemed to look down on other departments. Meeting with the marketing department, they should just give our sales department the information we want, he would say, often making derogatory comments. At first glance, Mark, with his pleasant presence and a touch of maturity, quickly became the favorite among the female staff. Rumors that he was divorced and now single started circulating, and some female employees were quite taken with him. However, his attitude and arrogance towards subordinates began to show, leading most people, aside from a few women, to start keeping their distance.
Why did the higher-ups even bring someone like him?
Asked my subordinate, Kevin, as he approached me during a break. Kevin is a handsome 30-year-old guy, quite talented too. He can be a bit blunt, but he knows how to act appropriately, so he's never caused any trouble. Since he was assigned to the sales department, I've been his mentor, so he's pretty close to me. That's why he's quite frank when it's just the two of us. I guess in big companies, even colleagues compete fiercely for promotions, and there are still clients who will listen just because of the company's name, so maybe he can't shake off those negotiation habits. I mused, sipping my coffee, feeling fed up as I remembered the snide remarks Mark had just made. Honestly, seeing Mark's smug face reminds me of how he looked down on me 25 years ago, and it's unpleasant.
But it's always the same with him, isn't it? His attitude towards you earlier was frankly obnoxious. No one's going to follow a leader like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry you have to see that. But Kevin, remember, Mark is our boss. We can't just say anything, I said, while internally agreeing with him. If it really comes down to it, tell me. Mediating between subordinates and superiors is part of my job as middle management. At this, Kevin chuckled.
If I had a boss like you, Chris, I'd be happy to follow. Sorry, I went too far. Don't worry, I won't snap at Mark.
That's good. I want the younger staff to work without being bothered by such things, I replied, smiling back at Kevin.
What are you talking about? You're still young, Chris.
Young, huh? I said, comforted by Kevin's smile, and lightly scolded him.
Chris, did you hear? Mark is getting married.
One day, Kevin came to report to me as soon as he arrived at work. Really? Well, that's good news.
Aren't you surprised?
Kevin seemed a bit deflated by my response. Well, Mark is single, right? So, no big deal.
That is true.
As Kevin and I entered the department, it was buzzing with talk about the news. Apparently, Mark's fiancée is 18 years younger and a receptionist at a major company he used to work with. Also, she is a beautiful woman from a wealthy family. Mark, with his experienced charm, completely won her over.
Her parents were worried about him being divorced, but he managed to persuade them quite forcefully. Well, Mark is a good-looking guy, with that mature man vibe.
Who got all this information? That's some impressive investigative work, I said, amused by Kevin's eager report. Later, when Mark arrived at work, someone cheerfully congratulated him, and he smiled shyly.
Oh, you all know already. It feels a bit embarrassing.
The sales department, usually tense, was filled with an unusually relaxed atmosphere.
The wedding is in a month. I'll send out the invitations later. I'd love for you all to come.
Applause broke out, and someone whistled cheerfully.
Mark's in a good mood, isn't he? Hey, Chris, you look a bit stern. What's up?
Oh, I didn't mean to. Just lost in thought, I managed to say to Kevin, but inside, I couldn't feel at ease. Mark's heavy face and my sister's image overlapped in my mind. I had thought I'd put those feelings aside, but I couldn't bring myself to genuinely congratulate him.
Taking a break, Chris?
3 weeks after hearing about the wedding and just a week before the ceremony, I ran into Mark taking a break. Hi, Mark. I greeted politely, then went to buy a coffee, intending to leave right after.
Wait, Chris. You haven't congratulated me yet, have you?
Mark's words carried a faint malice, making me turn around. My apologies. Congratulations on your upcoming marriage. As I said politely, Mark burst into laughter.
I can understand your reluctance.
He looks at me with the same condescending gaze he had 25 years ago.
You're Anne's brother? Right. The one who confronted me back then.
You remembered that, I managed to say, feeling my face contort.
To be honest, I had forgotten, but I had to sort things out when I heard my future in-laws were doing some checking. Of course, I've left no evidence of anything incriminating. I wouldn't make such a blunder.
He leaned in closer, peering at my face.
I recalled it then, matching the brat from my memory with your face.
Mark glanced around, making sure no one was listening.
Good thing Anne didn't make a fuss back then. I've made it clear to her how embarrassing it would be for her if she did. No evidence, after all.
Seeing my pale face seemed to amuse him greatly.
It's been 25 years. But if you try anything funny, I'll spread embarrassing photos of Anne online. I've been keeping tabs on you and Anne, knowing you must resent me. Anne's a kindergarten teacher now, isn't she? Just remember, if you start anything, I'll spread her past all over the internet. Don't get any weird ideas.
His vile threat made me feel nauseous. Mark evidently pleased with his dominance. Mark smirks.
Listen, don't interfere with me. And keep in mind, you'd better do as I say, and take good care of your precious sister.
With that, he walked away, laughing. What a jerk. He hasn't changed at all. Anger trembled through me as I muttered to myself. The day before the wedding, an upbeat Mark addressed the gathered employees at the morning meeting.
Tomorrow's the big day for my wedding. Make sure you all come. No excuses. That's an order from your director.
Initially, there were chuckles, but the room fell silent as he continued.
Each of you should bring at least $500 as a gift. Consider it a small token of thanks for all I've done for you.
The employees exchanged looks and murmured among themselves. Unfazed, Mark went on.
Being adored by my subordinates will certainly raise my stock in my future in-law's eyes. Got it? And Chris.
He suddenly called me out.
I'm taking special care of you. So,
He is staring at me mockingly.
for the wedding, I expect a gift of $10,000 from you. If that's too much, don't bother coming.
That's what he said.
What? $10,000?
The announcement left everyone in disbelief, with Mark laughing at their confusion.
If you bring $10,000, I might at least get you a seat in the corner.
He continued taunting with a look of superiority.
You got that, Chris?
He said meaningfully before ending the meeting with dismissed.
Chris, are you okay?
Kevin rushed over, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks," I whispered, fighting the urge to scream in anger. On the day of Mark's wedding, I was relaxing at home.
Chris, your son really catches on quick.
Kevin remarked, impressed after teaching my middle school son chess. "Kevin, I didn't know chess was one of your hobbies. Quite the sophisticated pastime. What, are you some kind of rich kid?" I teased as I handed him a coffee, and he grinned in response. Then my phone rang. "Who is it?" I looked at the screen. It was Mark. I silently showed it to Kevin.
Hello. Hey, what's the meaning of this? What's going on?
Mark was yelling from the other end. "Isn't this the man of the hour, the groom? Shouldn't you be in the middle of your reception right now? What are you calling me? Is everything all right?" I replied mockingly, and I could almost hear Mark grinding his teeth.
Not a single one of my subordinates has shown up. Did you tell everyone not to come or what?
Mark's voice was filled with anger and frustration. "Oh, is that so? No one showed up." I feigned surprise. And Kevin, hearing everything, laughed silently next to me.
Stop acting so surprised. The reception started, and no one from my department has arrived. The president and the bride's parents are demanding explanations.
I forgot the president was the matchmaker. I recalled the president's energetic face and felt a bit guilty for putting him in such a position.
Yesterday, I left early for today's event, and you must have led everyone astray after I left. You've really smeared my name.
Mark hissed threateningly.
You know what you did, opposing me? I'll spill everything about Anne's past to her kindergarten, making her wish she had stayed hidden at home. Having a cheeky brother like you is a sin in itself for Anne.
The call then ended abruptly. "Did you get that recorded?" I asked Kevin, who winked and stood up.
Got it all. Let's go.
Kevin and I arrived at Mark's wedding venue. The reception should have been lively by now, but the place seemed eerily quiet.
Excuse me, are you gentlemen from the groom's company?
A staff member approached us as we arrived. Yes, well. I showed our invitation, and the staff member looked relieved.
Right this way, please.
As we entered, everyone inside turned to look at us.
Wow, the pressure's intense.
Kevin whispered behind me. The atmosphere in the venue was strange. The bride's side was filled, but the seats for the groom's side, except for what appeared to be close relatives, were empty. The bride and groom looked tense, and even the president at the matchmaker's table seemed uncomfortable. The air was filled with an awkward silence as everyone quietly ate their meals.
Chris,
Mark spotted me, stood up from his seat, and shouted. He was in a white tuxedo but looked pale. I apologize for being late despite your kind invitation today. I announced loudly enough for the whole venue to hear. The MC, relieved, said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the colleagues of the groom have just arrived," and the other guests looked somewhat relieved. But their puzzled expressions returned as they realized it was just Kevin and me.
Chris, Kevin, I'm glad you could make it.
Mark approached us with a forced smile, trying to hide his unease. When he got close, Mark lowered his voice and said hurriedly,
Just you two. Where are the others?
Mark, I'm so sorry.
Kevin suddenly exclaimed loudly and apologized deeply.
Kevin, what? Are you apologizing for being late?
Mark asked, surprised. Instead of answering Mark, Kevin addressed the guests loudly.
Though we were invited, the subordinates couldn't possibly arrange the $500 gift that Mr. Mark demanded, so they regretfully had to abstain from attending.
The venue buzzed with murmurs. Kevin continued.
It would be one thing if he had been a long-standing figure in our lives, but given our brief acquaintance of just 6 months and the numerous unpleasant and troubling incidents at work, no one wants to give him $500 just because he's looked after us.
What? What are you saying?
Mark turned pale and flustered, while Kevin calmly surveyed the room, his confidence contrasting starkly with Mark's agitation. The guests whispered and nodded in agreement. I was also ordered to give a gift of $10,000, which I couldn't afford. I was told it was okay not to attend if I couldn't pay, but I couldn't just miss it without greeting. So here I am.
Hey, Chris. Be quiet.
Mark tried desperately to silence me as I raised my voice.
What's going on, Mark?
The president had quietly approached and interjected.
President.
Mark literally jumped, turning to face him.
No, it's just some misunderstanding. A surprise I wasn't expecting.
Mark said with a forced smile, trying to cover up.
It's no misunderstanding. Look.
Kevin then showed his smartphone, playing Mark's voice from the previous day's morning meeting.
No, this is wrong, sir. I was just a bit overexcited about the wedding. It was meant as a joke.
What's this special treatment you mentioned to Chris?
The president cut in, stopping Mark's excuses.
Well, it's just a misunderstanding.
Mark stuttered, his face alternating between shades of pale and red in his fluster. Then the bride's father approached and confronted Mark.
Mark, can you explain this? Even if you say it was a joke, it seems the employees didn't take it that way. Doesn't that indicate a lack of trust between you and your team?
Turning to Kevin, he asked.
Right, Kevin?
Yes, Uncle, exactly.
What, Kevin? Are you related?
Mark exclaimed in shock. I had only found out yesterday, but Kevin is a distant relative of Mark's fiancée, Violet, coming from a prominent family himself, which explained his aristocratic hobby of chess.
I was surprised too when I heard Violet was marrying Mark. I knew they were each getting married, but didn't know to whom until later. I had suspected when I heard about Mark's fiancee's profile that it might be Violet.
Violet is the name of the bride.
At first, I thought Violet's infatuation with Mark, despite his arrogance, was understandable since he's handsome.
Kevin's face darkened as he continued.
But as evident from his earlier remarks, Mark looks down on people without remorse and can act despicably. Therefore, I must say I can't support this marriage. Violet, I think you should reconsider.
Kevin addressed the pale bride, who quietly nodded, tears in her eyes.
Now, wait a minute. This is outrageous. Do you know how much I've invested in this?
Mark's outburst was quickly silenced by the cold stares from around the room.
So, you spend a fortune to keep her and then forced your subordinates to cough up hefty gifts to recoup your expenses.
The president approached Mark with a half smile, his cheek twitching.
No, that wasn't my intention. I just thought a lady from a wealthy family would need appropriate gifts and events.
As Mark recoiled under the president's pressure, the bride's father interjected.
Oh, so you're saying my daughter is a gold digger?
No, not at all. Please calm down.
Don't you dare to say that.
The bride's father exploded, and the situation escalated quickly. Staff rushed to restrain him as he lunged at Mark. The bride's mother, holding the shocked bride, moved with Mark, the president, Kevin, and me to a side room.
Please inform everyone in the venue that we'll continue with the meal.
The president instructed his wife before leaving us.
Now, Kevin, you made some serious accusations about Mark's character earlier. Could you elaborate? It might be important for the bride and her parents to reconsider this marriage.
The president said, looking intently at the subdued Mark.
Yes, but I need Chris's permission first.
Chris's permission.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kevin. I'm okay with it, I said, nodding firmly. After asking the staff to leave, we sat down around the table.
Let me tell you, recently, I was hiding because my phone was acting up in the break room and Mark came in. I didn't want to be caught slacking off, so I hid.
Kevin had accidentally overheard Mark threatening me about my sister in the past.
Wait, you were there at that time?
Mark stood up abruptly, only to be shoved back down by the president and the bride's father.
Mark was in a good mood, humming to himself, but then he started harassing Chris when he arrived. I always hated how he treated Chris. I was recording it, thinking it might be useful to report to the company, but then the conversation took a strange turn.
Kevin continued, playing the recording of that conversation.
Stop it.
Mark jumped up again but was quickly restrained.
Chris, are you sure? This will expose your sister's shame.
I closed my eyes, remaining silent as Mark yelled at me.
So, 25 years ago, Mark did something to Chris's sister.
Yes, and he threatened that if I revealed it, he would harm my sister again.
And from this recording, it seems he might have done other terrible things.
Yes, probably similar actions. I couldn't stand him getting away with deceiving his fiancée and her family. But I was also torn about protecting my sister until Kevin told me about this recording and gathered testimonies of his misdeeds. All eyes turned to Kevin.
I wanted to confront Mark immediately, but I thought he would just run away. So, I used my family's resources to investigate Mark's ex-wife and other women associated with him.
The result was indeed terrible. The investigation uncovered that the ex-wife, whom Mark had slandered as a spendthrift who neglected household duties, was actually the victim of Mark's financial exploitation. Despite her reputation being tarnished and being forced to pay alimony, she lived reclusively after the divorce. Many women had suffered from Mark's exploitation and, despite their complaints, were discredited due to Mark's manipulative charm. A woman who showed us her still healing wounds had pleaded tearfully during the investigation.
Violet, this marriage is off. If after hearing this, you still want to marry him, you're disowned.
The bride's father shook with rage as he declared.
Of course, I won't marry him.
The bride, who had seemed meek, now spoke with determined anger.
Mark, given the severity of this, I can keep you employed. This is too much, even for private matters.
The president said sternly, finalizing Mark's fate.
Damn it. All because of you guys.
Groaning with frustration, Mark clutched his head.
Careful now. If you even think of retaliating against me, Violet, Chris, or his sister, we've got lawyers ready to take action. And yes, we've recorded this entire conversation.
Kevin warned sharply, causing Mark to bite his lip in vexation.
The women you've wronged have come forward saying they'll sue you. So it seems you're in for a tough time.
Kevin added, making Mark slump in defeat. Mark, think about all the despicable things you've done. The accumulated resentment of those women will come back to haunt you. I told him, watching him turn pale. You boasted about having no evidence, but nothing is absolute. Evidence will surface, whether it's diaries, recordings, or bank transfers from the women you exploited. Each of them may have been frightened by your shadow and become submissive, but if they think they have friends, they can stand up with courage. You never know where things will come apart. Be prepared.
What?
I continued, approaching Mark slowly and resting a hand on his shoulder as he crumbled to the floor, covering his ears. Eventually, Mark was fired from the company. As Kevin predicted, a group of women sued him, leading to his conviction and imprisonment for the severe trauma he caused. I attended a trial where I saw Mark, who had aged significantly, losing all traces of his once charming appearance, resembling a withered old man instead. The bitterness of 25 years hadn't fully faded, but knowing that no more women would suffer at Mark's hands brought some relief. I chose not to tell my sister about these events or Mark's downfall, to avoid reopening old wounds, considering there'd be no further interaction with him.
Congratulations on becoming the sales director, Chris.
My colleagues greeted me warmly as I took on my new role. Thanks, Kevin. You are also senior manager now. I'm counting on you, I replied, acknowledging the busy days ahead for us both. While the wedding fiasco became known to all, mainly for the boycotted high-priced gifts, the subsequent lawsuits against Mark circulated as rumors without ever implicating my sister, which was a relief. Violet, the former bride, had since recovered and continued her work at the reception, always with a smile. My sister is getting married, I shared with Kevin over coffee.
That's wonderful news. Congratulations.
Jer, it's to a high school classmate who's always cared for her, waiting patiently until she was ready. I smiled at the thought of my sister's happiness. Listening to my story, Kevin and my other colleagues shared in the joy, reinforcing my resolve to cherish the invaluable people in my life, my workmates, family, and friends.